Hey. I'm your humble host, Phys Ed Music, and this right here is Urban Politics, where politics lives. I want to thank you all for liking and subscribing. As soon as you have a chance, please run on over to YouTube and like and subscribe. Phys Ed Music, Urban Politics, where politics lives. But check it out. I want to jump right into this like a car and drive because there's all types of tasty and delicious politics for us to sink our teeth into. Of course, we're going to talk about the war in Ukraine, and that's what that is. It's a war, even though they're not allowed to say that in Russia on their news. That's not funny, but it's the truth. But that's exactly what it is. It's a war. It's an invasion on Ukraine. It's been dominating the news cycles as it should. You know what's bigger than this? You know what I'm saying? Another not necessarily world war, but another skirmish going on in Europe. So something to talk about. So we got to talk about it. Let's go ahead and talk about war and race as far as it goes with Ukraine. They were showing pictures of Ukrainians stopping Africans from getting on trains to leave, then telling them that they would have to stay and fight for Ukraine. And I was like, really? I mean, that was just remarkable to hear because, number one, it's sad enough to think that, you know what I'm saying, that these people were actually stopping African students from getting on the train and fleeing Ukraine. What is that? So I guess they were kicking them off and then they were letting other Ukrainians on. Okay, you know what I'm saying? That's pretty tacky. Not a good look at all. But then the fact that you would tell these people that you have to stay behind and then, fight for a country that you don't come from, that's laughable. And that's what the African guy was saying too. How did they expect? He said, that doesn't even make any sense. How am I being African and I'm fighting for Ukraine? He said, that just is, yeah, that's just nonsensical. It is. So the fact that they would even go there, number one, if I'm going to be fighting for a place I'm not from, I'm a soldier of fortune, so I need to get paid. So if you're talking about being a soldier of fortune, you need to be talking about putting some money in my pocket. You know what I'm saying? But please don't think that you're going to stop me from leaving, because of the color of my skin and you're just going to draft me to your military. You know what I'm saying? Because I'm a warm body who could help fight because you need a few of those to help. That's garbage. That's pathetic. But once again, there it is. Racial things and racism creeping its ugly face into war. So, there's that. There were news reporters acting like this is so out of character for a European country. That like, oh, you know what I'm saying? This is something so crazy to see in a European country, saying they expect it in basically brown countries. But this is a civilized society. That's what some of them even said. Yeah, it's a civilized society. These are educated people. These are not people from a quote unquote third world country. We don't expect to see a conflict like this. We don't expect to see this much turmoil in a place that's supposed to be full of so many civilized people. These you know what I'm saying, these people aren't from a third world and it's like, come on, man, we know exactly what you're saying. These aren't brown people, so why they acting like them brown people fighting all the time? And that was a really tacky and a really bad look from all the people. But then there it is, you know what I'm saying? Once again, race had to be a part of it. They didn't need to bring that up. You know what I'm saying? You could have reported on Ukraine and not said anything about any other, country or nation skirmishes or fights or wars or any of that. Focus on what you're talking about. You're talking about Ukraine. What's going on in Ukraine with Ukrainians? That was not the time to try to draw some kind of equivalency between that and other wars that you see in brown countries or any of that good stuff. You know what I'm saying? What was the point of that? But they couldn't help themselves. They could not help themselves. This is America, and they couldn't help but lift up their skirts and show their racism to the world like that. So, yeah, it's very telling of our country, isn't it? That, even our news reporters, you know what I'm saying, they couldn't keep their biases out of that. They had to just mention that, to see something like this happening in a civilized country with people who look like me. I mean, who don't come from a third world country fighting like this. And it's like, come on, what are you talking about? I'm like, well, hold up. Now you're talking about, a civilized country. It's like World War II, Hitler, that was in Europe, right? So what are you saying? You know what I'm saying? You act like Europe ain't had wars? Now, I understand that there's a lot of wars going on in Pakistan. I understand there's a lot of wars and stuff going on in Africa and all these other places. True indeed. There's always wars and rumors of wars, right? It says that in the Bible. But to act like it doesn't go down in Europe, well, that just reeks of racism. You know what I'm saying? So come on now. Y'all know better than that, and we know better than that. So stop doing that. But once again, welcome to America where everything has to be about race, right? You know what I'm saying? Even when they're reporting on a war, they still have to throw that caveat in there that, yeah, this is so surprising to see going on in a European country. So there's that. The interesting thing about this war is Ukrainians giving soldiers, Russian soldiers, tea and bread. I know you saw that. It was a film. I think it was on TikTok. Showed the Russian lady giving the Ukrainian soldiers some tea, some bread, letting him call home to his mom. They've been imploring, Ukrainians have been imploring Russian soldiers, to lay down their weapons, and support Ukraine. Now that might be right there how you win a war, because obviously Ukraine doesn't have the military might to go up against Russia and beat them. But if Ukrainians can get in the heads of Russian soldiers, you might have something there. I mean, think about that. If they could convince enough of them to lay down their soldiers to become Ukrainian sympathizers, well, that's the end of the war, ain't it? Because, Vladimir Putin can be giving out orders all day, but if he ain't got nobody to fill them orders, war's over. We don't, what I'm saying? You don't have a military, you don't have an army, you don't have a war. So there you go. So that's an interesting strategy. I don't think it's anything that I don't think it's a strategy. I think this is the Ukrainians being real. Like, hey man, you're out. You got us outnumbered and outgunned. Man, put your guns down. We don't want this. Putin want this. You don't even want this. Putin want this. So let's not do this. So that's a good, what I'm saying? That's just real. I don't think it's a strategy. That's just real. But it is good strategy, because in the end of the day, they're going to have to get in some of these guys' heads, because like I said, they can never stand up against the military might of Russia. Russia got too many people with too many nice toys. You know what I'm saying? So it TI is what a TI is, you know what I'm saying? But we'll see if that makes a difference. They may gain some headway with that. Like I said, if they can get into the heads of these Russian soldiers, they can maybe turn this thing around, right? Then they were saying that this many refugees, or there has not been this many refugees in Europe since World War II, like I was talking about, right? They were saying in the first 10 days of this conflict, 1.2 million people fled to neighboring countries. And they were saying that the good thing is that some of these neighboring countries were pretty inviting. We're pretty much like, yeah, come on in. We're going to give these people safe haven. We're going to do this. We're going to do that. We're going to work to assimilate them into our society. And it's interesting how, arms were open when you got a whole lot of people, fleeing Europe, fleeing Ukraine or whatnot. Other European countries like, yeah, come on in. But then when it's other, refugees, which we had just a little while ago, not too long ago, we had like some Syrian refugees and stuff like that. Those arms weren't open as so fast. They weren't all open arms, and they weren't necessarily, come over here and integrate with our society. So, you know what I'm saying? So what's up with that? Well, what's the difference? We all know what the difference is, right? But here's the thing. I was sitting there thinking about it, and there's something to be said when they do talk about assimilation and how easily and free-flowing an assimilation can go. Now, that's the thing. You have immigrants, you have refugees coming into your society. You want them to assimilate. And I guess they would say on paper that doesn't mean, shed all of their culture, come over and adopt your culture. But that's kind of what people want. They want people to forget where they're from and forget what they did or whatever and come over here and get with what we're doing over here. So, you know what I'm saying? I guess that would be a little easier if you were already European to assimilate into a European, society. It's not going to be hard. If you're a person of color, you know what I'm saying? Coming from a totally different culture, that is going to be a little harder, right? I mean, come on now. You're not European. So that's the number one there, right there. There's a difference. You know what I'm saying? Not to mention whatever language barrier you might have or whatever else. So when I look at that, I can't look on his face and say, oh, that's racist. You know what I'm saying? They only want people who look like them to be the refugees. Well, nah. Maybe some of that, but at the same time, there is something to think about that assimilation piece. And they have to think, you have thousands of these people coming in, how easy is it going to be for them to become part of our society? To blend right into what we got going on here, to not disrupt the flow too much of the people who are already here. So those are all things to take into consideration. So I had to check myself on that. So there's that. But it is good to see that they are being welcomed in with open arms by other places. There's a thing called the International Criminal Court, and they said that they were launching an immediate criminal investigation of possible war crimes in Ukraine. Amen for that. My goodness. You know what I'm saying? Please, somebody hold Vladimir Putin accountable for this. This is ridiculous. You know what I'm saying? This man gets a wild hair up his butt. and then he goes and invades a sovereign country by the name of Ukraine. That is ridiculous. All right, you know what I'm saying? And in this world, there's such thing as war crimes. You know what I'm saying? And that's just not the way you do things. You know, you don't get to invade people just because you want to or just because you can. You know, none of the, you know what I'm saying? He doesn't really have any good reason to be doing this. There's no good reason to go to war. And then I read somewhere that he had the audacity to say something about he thought Russians would be greeted as liberators. What? Said the Ukrainians would greet the Russians as liberators. Who does that sound like? Sounds like George Bush Jr. talking about all the Iraqis. They'll greet the American troops as liberators. They'll be happy to see us. What? Are these guys delusional, or is there something else going on? So ask yourself that. But that was interesting to me. I was like, really? I don't think he believes that. That's got to be propaganda, you know, because I'm like, seriously, why would Ukraine be happy about you coming in to invade them and take them over? Why would that be a pleasant thing? You know, even though you're dressing it up as something is that you're like saving them from some kind of Nazi influence, yada, yada, blah, 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 woof, 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 whatever you pulled out of your whatever. Point being, they're not happy you're there. They wish you would leave, and you knew they wasn't going to be happy when you went over there. You know what I'm saying? So come on with that. But it's good to see that the International Criminal Court will be holding him accountable. You know, so we'll sit back and watch that. You know, we'll wait for that justice to take place. The Canadian Broadcasting Corporation suspended reporting in Russia, and it's government owned. And basically, you know, so they're owned by Russia. And they said that they need to get some clarity on recent Russian legislation that appears to criminalize independent reporting on the invasion of Ukraine. So that's right there is what I was, you know, that was a joke I was making earlier that, you know, I guess you watch TV in Russia and it won't say invasion in Ukraine or none of that. There's certain words that they're not even allowed to use when they refer to what's going on in Ukraine. Because Vladimir Putin, he owns everything. You know, he owns the broadcasting system. So, you know, he has the final say on what they can and can't put out there. And of course, they're putting out a lot of propaganda, not putting out the truth. They were saying a lot of these people in Russia, you know, they're watching stations over here in America. They're watching TikTok, they're watching Facebook just to get some real life news on what's going on in their surroundings, because they said they can't watch their news and outlets and stuff like that and really see what's going on with this whole thing in Ukraine because it's being blocked. You know what I'm saying? And Vladimir Putin can do that because he's a dictator. So, wow, isn't that something? I mean, that takes you right back. I don't know. I guess the things I've seen on TV or whatever and heard about. You know, they say it goes on a lot in China. That the internet that they have is not the same internet that we have. You know, there's a lot of stuff is blocked or whatever. So I guess it's like that. You know what I'm saying? A communist government, or when you have a dictator, when you have people who have that kind of control, that's something we take for granted here in America. And you know what? Say what you want to about this country, I always do. There are a lot of freedoms and liberties that we take for granted, and that's a big one right there. At least when things go on in the news. Now, of course, the orange guy gave everybody the fake news line to run about, and there is fake news. There's a whole lot of propaganda that goes on right here in America, right? But at least I will say that you know what I'm saying? I'll go ahead and say most times, you know, you can find what's really going on. You know, and I tell people all the time, listen, between MSNBC, CNN, Fox News, between them, you gonna know something. You know, you gonna know something. I mean, come on now. I'm not saying that all of those outlets get it right all of the time. I'm not saying that any of them get it right any of the time. But if you watch all three like I do, and some of the other news that you get, of course, local news and such and things like that, you can start to formulate the story and get a pretty good understanding on what's going on. But it would suck to live in a place like Russia where no matter where you look, you're never going to get an accurate story. You know, you're always going to get the story that Vladimir Putin wants you to have. So that's interesting. I don't know what to say about that. That just sucks. That's real. That's horrible. A conservative friend of mine is going to tell me, he's like, yeah, I guess he's got family members, you know, who are Russian. And he said, they like Vladimir Putin. And I said, yeah, I hear that. Well, you know, Vladimir Putin's got fans. So does Hitler. So does Trump. None of that impresses me. Says she loves Putin. Okay. You know what I'm saying? I mean, every madman had followers, right? Or he wouldn't be a madman. He wouldn't be... You can't be a crime boss without a family to lead, right? Or without a gang. You know what I'm saying? You can't be the boss without the gang. So every tyrant slash murderer slash thug has fans. That does not impress me at all. You know what I'm saying? If anything, that saddens me and that lets you know how weak and pathetic people can be. Anyway, moving on before I get out of here, you know what I'm saying? I'm going to keep it real short. Real short. You know what I'm saying? Because I guess I just wanted to touch on the stuff going on in Ukraine. Before I get up out of here, though, I do want to talk about my IPA of the week. Yes, and this one right here, it's tasty. It's delicious. It reminds me a lot of myself. You know why? Because it's dark. Yeah, dark and delicious. This right here, this Modelo Negra. That's what that is, Modelo Negra. Ah, this is a really good beer right here. And I had this beer for the first time a million years ago. I was in Brooklyn, New York, hanging out with my dude Chester. What's up? He watches the show. Fan of, you know what I'm saying? A friend of the show, fan of the show. And one of my best and dearest friends, he turned me on to this, and I was like, oh, okay, you know what I'm saying? I was like, he had poured it in a glass, and I said, man, this puts me in the mind of a Guinness, you know, and no one ever, or nothing ever puts me in the mind of a Guinness, because Guinness is one of the best beers you'll ever get. Now, it's also an acquired taste. A lot of people are hearing me say that, and they're like, is he talking about Guinness, that dark beer? Yes, and it is an acquired taste. But here's the thing with Guinness. Once you become a real beer drinker and you acquire a taste for beer, then you understand just how good a beer Guinness Stout is. That is a really good beer. It's dark. You know what I'm saying? It's rich. And you kind of have to grow and learn to look for these flavors and such when you're sipping on a beer. But this guy right here, delicious, dark, lovely. Cerveza. It's a delicious cerveza. I'm looking here, and I mean, it was hard to find 5.4% alcohol. So that's about perfect right there. You know, this right here is something you can cap off the night with. You're not going to get too tore up, you know, because like I said, most beers are 5% alcohol. This is 5.4. So this is just really smooth, really delicious, a really good adult beverage. So if you got a little bit of money in your pocket, you know, and you want to sip good that night, you want to sip something good, get you this Modelo Negra. You know, when they say always bet on black, there it is. You know what I'm saying? That is just a really good beer right there. Now, there's this other beer here. This is not my IPA of the week because I talked about this one, but I've been sipping on it lately. I'm going to talk about it again because it's just such a delicious beer. This delicious IPA by Stone. Oh, this is good. As you see right here, I had to get the, excuse me, I had to get the tall can. Why? Delicious. This beer goes so hard, it's ridiculous. 7.7% alcohol. So if you kill this whole can, your night is set. You don't need nothing else. You know what I'm saying? You don't need a shot. You don't need nothing. You know what I'm saying? This right here do you. You know what I'm saying? And I'm looking here, it's talking about a Citrusy Lemon Drop hops, Tropical El Dorado hops, and it's gluten reduced. Yeah, you know what I'm saying? So, you know what I'm saying? I don't have any problems with gluten, but some people out there do. So this is gluten reduced, not even a whole bunch of gluten. You know, got this guy on the can to scare you to death, but don't let it scare you because this is some doggone good beer right here. You know what I'm saying? This IPA, it goes so hard. So there it is. Those are two really delicious beers, but my IPA of the week is really that Modelo Negro. It is really good and something you should check out. Once again, that is my time, ladies and gentlemen. I am Fizz Ed Music. This right here is Urban Politics, where politics lives. Want to thank you all for liking and subscribing. Before I get out of here, let me touch on one more thing. I see that everybody is seeing about, you know, the beef between Kanye West and Pete Davidson. Now that Pete Davidson is dating Kim Kardashian. And, you know, this is a show about politics, so I don't like to really get into pop culture. But I wanted to speak on this only because it was brought up. I think actually it might have been the Power Morning Show or something I was watching, but they brought it up and they drew a parallel. No, it was the Young Turks. They drew a parallel between Kanye West and the things that he's doing to Kim Kardashian, and then, you know, like Eminem and kind of the battle that he had with his ex-wife and how he did that whole song about kidnapping her and putting her in the trunk and all that other type of stuff. And I'm not even gonna lie, when that came out, I remember hearing it at the time and being like, whoa, you know, I really like this guy Eminem, but that's a little bit over the top. You know, to do a whole song about kidnapping your baby's mom and tying her up and all this other stuff. Hey, I get it. Have I been that mad at people? Yes. Is it anything to write a rhyme about? No. Because if something happens to that person, who do you think they coming to get? You. But you know what I'm saying? I also get the point that, he's an artist, and art is especially a song, especially a hip hop song, is really just how a person felt in that moment. In that 5 minute span of that day of their life, this is how they felt, and they wrote about it. You know what I'm saying? So it was interesting, though. Some of the stuff Kanye West has been doing, I think, is over the top. They were saying that he had put it out to his followers on Twitter that if they see Pete Davidson, yell at him and scream at him and call him a loser and all this other stuff. And, as we all know, Pete Davidson has had issues with depression and drug abuse and all that other type of stuff. And all that's nothing to play with. I was talking about that today, and, a friend of mine was saying how he doesn't take anything that Kanye West does seriously and thinks it's all just a cash grab or a publicity stunt. Could be that as well. Sometimes he does come off like the boy who cried wolf. I get it. And then, like I said, unfortunately, this being America, what'll happen is nothing until somebody gets hurt or, killed. And then people will want to do something. In this country, we're all about that, what is it, ounce of prevention's worth a pound of cure, but we're all about that pound of cure. Nobody wants to do that ounce of prevention. We're going to wait till the pound of cure comes, really? You know what I'm saying? So that's what we do in this country. That is what it is. So and I'm not saying that I want that situation to get to that point. I'm saying I hope it does not get to that point. But this is something to really watch and keep an eye on, because we know that Kanye West is there's medication he's supposed to be taking that he ain't taking. And like I said, we all know Pete Davidson has had issues with depression. So there's that. And then they literally said Kim has asked Kanye to cut that out. Said Pete Davidson, his only crime was dating me. He ain't did nothing to you. Leave that man alone, And that's the thing, too. Be a man about it, Kanye. He ain't got nothing to do with you. Kim chose him. You know what I'm saying? You had your shot with her. You shot your shot. Y'all got married. Y'all had some kids. You screwed it up. That happens. Every real man out there has screwed up a relationship. Every real man out there has let a good woman slip through his fingers. Happens all the time, Kanye. You know what you do? You hit the bar and you get over it. I'm joking. You just get over it. Be a man, grow up, and get over it. You know what I'm saying? Stop, coming at your wife's new boo crazy just because you made her money and ain't got nothing else to do. That's ridiculous, ain't it? Anyway, once again, I am your humble host, Phil Ed Music. This right here is Urban Politics, where politics lives. Please, as soon as you have a chance, go over to YouTube, like and subscribe. Urban Politics. And as always, see you around like a donut.